What the prophet says in verse 22. As you summon to a feast day, so you summon against me terrors on every side. Listen, in the day of the Lord's anger, no one escaped or survived. Watch this. Those that I cared for and reared, my enemy has destroyed. Look at me. He says, it is a season and a time when the enemy is destroying our children. Now get the scene, because he says, these are the ones that I cared for. It's the idea of a parent caring for a child. Then he said, the ones that I reared. It's the idea of you raising up a child. Stay with me. And he says, my children that I cared for, I fed, I clothed, I nursed. My children that I reared, I raised. My children have been destroyed by my enemy. You didn't get it. He said, my enemy has destroyed my children. Christianity is one generation away from extinction. Let me say that one more time. One generation away from extinction. And so the prophet speaks of the priority of the children. He says their culture, he says this, he says their culture has been duped. It has been tricked and deceived by false prophets. He says prophets who promised happiness, fulfillment, and success and prosperity, telling us that if we got all that stuff, we'd be fulfilled and happy. They've discovered that those prophecies were wrong. So he says the enemy has attacked our children. Here's the second thing. He suddenly lifts up the priority of prayer. The priority of prayer. Now listen to me. He says, cry out. Cry out. Your heart cry out. Your heart cry. Cry from your heart. Listen, it's a call to prayer. Listen. Don't ever, we'll talk about it more next week. Don't ever underestimate the power of prayer. I know that sounds very mundane, very elementary, but hear me, children. Don't ever underestimate the power of prayer. So he says, cry out. The word cry out is kind of a multidimensional word. It means shout. It speaks of an emotional plea. It speaks of someone who is serious. And he says, cry out for the children. It's a passionate, it's a yell. It's not passive. It's not calm. It is emotional and excited and agitated because of the children. And he says, from your heart, from your passionate place, cry out to God. The word means to yell, to shout. And it's not so much that God is hard of hearing. It's yelling and shouting because you're excited and agitated. You ever seen anybody who they talk and try and talk, and the more they talk, they get loud and say, whoa, calm down. And they say, I'm all right. I just talk loud. God says, he says, when you're praying about your children, don't roll over and lay down. You got to take action. He says, you got to stand up. You got to make your voice be heard. You can't watch the enemy come in and destroy your home and your family and your sons and your daughters while you coming to church patting up patty cake and doing a little holy dance. You better get down on your knees. You better look up to the land of God. Look up to the face of God and shout out, oh God.